to me years of years of tapasya that we discover very genuine scientists, and this movie which they are going to show is a scientific validation. I always asked this question, why do you wait for validation? But universe said no. These scientists are also my children. Do not denounce them. Your desire is fulfilled. You will see. You will be very happy. I am very, very, very happy about it. So that is what is calorie is so clearly came. I mean, it's amazing. You desire and it's happening. So that is what finally, so fat is fast action technique of the body, because what can the body do? You have put it inside, quickly it has to absorb and keep it in store. And in the whole issue you need to know, even if you look at it scientifically, is there a contribution of your own thought in the body or so-called psychology? Psychology, philosophy, science. What has that happened to you? We have completely ignored, have you ignored or not, the blueprint of the body which is going on and on to tell you the purpose of life is only living. The purpose of life is to express happiness, and you just say, I often say fake it to make it. Just say that, wow, wow, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, I love you, I thank you, and see the change that is happening. And facts. Fact is foolish act. That's what we are doing. When you respond to the information coming through media, it's foolish action. There is no other fact, and you compare the fact that you have been holding and the fact that they are going to present. Once again, thank you very much. From bottom of my heart, I thank each and every one of you who have been part of that journey. But for you, we won't be where we are. Please accept it and accept the gratitude, me and my team, and the part of the TAC family. There is vibrant groups happening, and please be part of the journey of TAC. And TAC is willing to take the responsibility, who will build the cat, and that we have been doing, and we wouldn't have been able to do it. But for each and every one of you, and each and every one of you are with us because of your experience and not information. Act. Act, and you will get the results. Thank you. Thank you very much.
If you could pack all of human history into 1 year, we've only been farming and eating grain since about yesterday, which is when we became shorter and fatter. We only started consuming processed vegetable oils about 10 minutes ago, which is when heart disease became our #1 killer. So after examining all this human history, the experts came to the obvious conclusion. We need to eat a lot more of these. And so they convinced us that human health depends on foods we didn't eat for more than 99% of our entire existence. How did this happen? In the 1950s, a biochemist named Ancel Keys published a study that compared heart disease and fat consumption in a half-dozen countries. The more fat, the more heart disease. The trend line was unmistakable. Just one little problem. Keys left out countries where people eat a lot of fat but have very little heart disease, like Holland and Norway. He also left out countries where people don't eat much fat but do have a lot of heart disease, like Chile. In fact, Keys had reliable data from 22 countries, and the results were all over the place. But you can't make a big splash in the scientific community with a trend line that looks like this. So Keys did what any dedicated researcher would do. He threw out the data that didn't fit and published his results. His punishment for this bit of scientific chicanery was to get his picture on the cover of Time magazine. Keys became known as the father of the lipid hypothesis, which says that eating saturated fat raises the cholesterol in your blood, and high cholesterol in your blood clogs your arteries and causes heart disease.
The hypothesis that when you eat high fat, that produces high cholesterol, and the cholesterol produces heart disease, is wrong in every one of those links.
This whole idea that dietary fat causes cholesterol problems is sort of a myth. The whole idea that cholesterol problems lead to heart disease is a myth.
The theory is completely and totally wrong. It was a theory that was made out of whole cloth and then pushed.
The term artery clogging saturated fat, it's as though it's all one word.
It's become part of the zeitgeist. Everybody knows saturated fat is bad for you, but when you get back and you start looking at the medical literature and you root back through to find out where this whole idea came from, it's bogus.
3 authors who did root through the medical literature are science writer Gary Taubes, Swedish doctor Uffe Ravenskov, and British doctor Malcolm Kendrick. When they examined the data from all the big studies on heart disease, they discovered some pretty interesting facts. Here's my favorite. Guess how many studies actually prove that a high-fat diet causes heart disease? The answer? 0. That's right, none. In some of the largest studies ever conducted, researchers put thousands of volunteers on a low-fat diet and then tracked their health history for several years. The results? Nothing. They had just as many heart attacks as people who weren't on a low-fat diet. Since 1948, the Harvard Medical School has been following the diets and death rates of the entire population of Framingham, Massachusetts. One of the researchers involved in the Framingham study called the lipid hypothesis the greatest scientific scam of this century, perhaps of any century. And after more than 40 years, even the director of the study made a rather startling admission about what the study data actually shows. The more saturated fat one ate, the more cholesterol one ate, the lower the person's serum cholesterol. In other words, a high-fat diet does not automatically raise your cholesterol.
Good evening. We started with the question, do we know anything about fat? And then we saw a figure that says everything we know is false. So let's at least start with what we think we know. So what do we know about fat? 1, that when I eat fat, I become fat. So when I eat foods that have fat in it, I become fat. That we know about fat, right? And how do we measure this fat? We measure it through what we call as calories. So if my food has more calories, that means I'm eating more fat, which means I'm going to become fat. So if I want to lose weight, I have to eat less calories and burn more calories. So then I lose weight, right? Simple? So we're all losing weight? But it's simple. We have to eat less calories, we have to burn more calories, and we'll lose weight. No? No, not so simple. Why? Because I love all the foods that have high calories in them. And I love all the foods that are supposed to produce high fat. So I love my chips, and I love my samosa, and I want my chaat. And how can I say no to chocolate? And it's my kid's birthday. How can I not have a pastry? I have to eat foods that are fattening because they taste so good. So I can't eat less calories. So what do I have to do? I have to burn what I eat. So how do I burn what I eat? Through exercising. But exercise needs time, exercise needs motivation, and exercise needs inclination. I don't have time. Now, after working a full day, how can you expect me to exercise? I don't have the energy to do that. Where should I go? So I can't eat less, and I can't exercise, so therefore I'm fat. Then what happens? One day we stand on the scale, and we look at a number that scares us. So we see 80, or we see 90, or we see 100, and we see 110. And then it is, bus, now to I have to do something about this. And I have to drop that fat. Or we decide we have a goal. I have a wedding to go to, and I want to wear a sari, and I have to show my stomach. And my stomach has to look fat, flat, not fat. So I have to burn that fat. So then the willpower comes because we have a goal and we start reducing the amount of calories we're eating. So we starve ourselves and we start pushing ourselves to exercise. And the result is that we drop weight. So we look thinner. And then after that happens, we go back to eating because I love everything and I've gone on that holiday or I've gone for that wedding, so I have to eat, and then the fat comes back. Okay? So what is it that has been scientifically said about fat? Or what is it that has been scientifically said about calories? Because we are counting calories, we're reducing the amount we're eating, and we're trying to increase the amount we're burning. So what do we know about calorie? To burn the calories that we consume through one slice of bread, we need to walk up the stairs, we need to walk up 20 floors. To burn the calorie that one consumes through one single slice of bread, you need to walk up 20 floors. The second thing that we know is that in 1 kilo of fat, there are 7,000 calories, which means to burn off 1 kilo of fat from my body in a week, okay, I need to reduce my calorie consumption by 1,000 calories every day. So there are 7,000 calories in a kilo of fat. I want to break down my fat in a week, which is 1 kilo a week. So I need to stop consuming about 1,000 calories every day. Do we know how much calories we consume on a daily basis? 2,500. So that's 40% less food than what we're eating every day to burn off 1 kilo of fat, which is 100 grams a day. So you have to eat 40% less than what you're eating to burn 100 grams. That's what we know about fat. What's the third thing that we know about calories? In the 1900s, they had done tests and experiments to see how does semi-starvation affect weight. That semi-starvation diet is today called a calorie restriction diet, which when it started was called semi-starvation. But they realized nobody likes the word semi-starvation, because who wants to be semi-starved? So we can't call it semi-starvation. So what do we have to do? We have to change the word for it to be accepted. So what do we call it? We call it calorie restriction. So what did they do? There are 3 different people, through 3 different studies in 3 very well-known centers, have come to the conclusion that restricting your calorie produces no significant weight loss, but it does produce consequences in terms of behavior and in terms of health. 1 out of these 3 studies had to actually be stopped midway because everybody in that study turned psychotic and needed to be admitted in a psychiatric ward. Because they either got suicidal and wanted to kill themselves, or they got sociopaths and they wanted to kill somebody else because they were not being given food. So through every statement that has been scientifically proved, they have said that actually calorie restriction and excessive burning of fat doesn't help, which means every single one of the members of this study, when they went back to eating the kind of food that they ate, they actually put on more weight than they had dropped. So what do? We eat low calorie for a while, we push ourselves to exercise for a while, we drop that weight, we achieve our goal, the wedding is over, the holiday is over, that number is forgotten, so we go back to eating what we like and we put that weight back on. And we don't only put the weight that we dropped, we actually put on more weight than we had dropped. So the next time I see the same number, or the next time I have a wedding to attend, the next time I put myself through a goal, what do I do again? I again reduce the calorie, I again burn more fat, and I again try to achieve the same goal. And in a while, what starts happening? Doesn't work. I'm eating less, I'm exercising more, but the way I used to drop before the fat, I have stopped dropping my weight in the same way. So before we move ahead and look at what else we do to drop that weight, we're going to look at a video which explains about calories.
Calories are the mainstay of conventional dietary advice. But when we take a proper look at calories, they're not actually that scientific. Calories were created in 1824 by Nicolas Clement and were originally used to measure heat, originating in studies concerning fuel efficiency for the steam engine. They've since been the staple in terms of measuring energy in foods. But what actually is a calorie? A calorie is the amount of energy it takes to raise the temperature of 1 kilogram of water by 1 degree on a Celsius thermometer at sea level. Don't worry, that doesn't mean much to me either. The way nutrition scientists measure calories in food is by burning the food in a bomb calorimeter, which is a box with 2 chambers, one inside the other. The scientists weigh a sample of the food, put the sample on a dish, and put the dish into the inner chamber of the calorimeter. They fill the inner chamber with oxygen and then seal it so the oxygen can't escape. The outer chamber is filled with a measured amount of cold water, and the oxygen in the inner chamber is ignited with an electric spark. When the food burns, an observer records the rise in temperature of the water in the outer chamber. If the temperature of the water goes up 1 degree per kilogram, the food has 1 calorie. 2 degrees, 2 calories. And 235 degrees, 235 calories. Sounds scientific enough, doesn't it? But my question is this: what on earth does that have to do with all the bodily processes that are involved in digesting food? The answer? Not much. Now don't get me wrong, in terms of weight management,